A reading from Duplicity and Duress, Snap Factories in the Making, Chapter 3, Day 2, When the Whistles Began, Wednesday, January 26, 2011. What happens when you have an anomalous experience, but you're afraid to acknowledge it? If you admit to the experience, you run the risk of being disbelieved or thought crazy. It's a profoundly destructive conflict, one that stops us as a society from looking for ways to discover and develop new knowledge, and one that stops us as individuals from embracing reality. We pay a price for denying our personal experiences of what's real. Our self-betrayal becomes a slippery slope. We begin to feel helpless. That's a quote from Elizabeth Lloyd Mayer, PhD, and author of Extraordinary Knowing. And with that, I will begin the third chapter, titled Day 2, When the Whistles Began, Wednesday, January 26, 2011. Silence is betrayal. There is a saying about an angel riding in the whirlwind to direct the storm. This sentiment has shown up in speeches and in movie titles. I liken it to the dance presented by positive synchronicities, subtle playful clues revealed to assist those in need, and unlikely but joyful happenstance. I'm hoping beyond hope it was an angel who, at last, appeared in this chaotic whirlwind to direct this raging storm. I'm hoping beyond hope it was definitely an angel who stepped in and took control to assist those, including myself, who play not the dark cards but the faithfully righteous ones. It is such an angel, I believe, who ultimately pointed the way toward this path. The path of the written word to inform those not yet exposed to that which is coming. A world controlled by super elites who move us around like pawns on a chessboard. A world in which people are so desensitized it takes outrageous acts of horror to allow them to feel. And a world in which cruelty becomes a competition among an increasing number of apathetic souls. There was a buzzing that came from somewhere on the mattress. It was just under my pillow my sister's head was resting upon. A muffled hum. That's the first memory I have about the second day, Day 2, Wednesday, January 26, 2011. A text came through on my sister's phone while she lay motionless, entranced in a very deep sleep. I laid there on the bed next to her, staring at her pillow, restless, wondering who could possibly be texting at that hour. It was sometime between 3 and 4 a.m. I couldn't take it. The sound of the buzzing, the pressure from the first day of being terrorized, all the chaos and the strange and unusual events. I slowly and very carefully slid my hand under the pillow and felt around to find the cell in the darkness without disrupting her sleep. My life depended upon it. I'd reached a point of believing and trusting no one, absolutely no one, not even Cadence. My fingers felt the hard plastic edges of the phone. I pawed to grab hold of it, gripped it with my trembling hand, pressed down toward the mattress to pull it out, still not disturbing the pillow, and flipped open its cover. I situated myself at the end of the bed as if more privacy could be had there. Hunched over the phone, with my legs dangling off the bottom of the mattress, my feet just barely touching the floor in the pitch black, I could see the text was from Ferdinand, the father of my sister's second child. Ferdinand is a tall, lanky, scruffy kind of guy who has stringy hair and a demeanor that shifted back and forth from kind-hearted to arrogant in a grungy kind of way. Whenever I've encountered him, it's been on the long side. His hair, reaching just to his shoulders. He often picked up jobs as a roofer and could be, shall we say, heavy on the drink at times. He's the guy who lives in that one house on the block. Somewhat of an eyesore. By that I mean it was his family who lived in that house in the neighborhood. You know, the one with the overgrown weeds, debris scattered all around the lawn, shingles hanging by one nail and swinging in the breeze as a storm rolled in on a hot summer night. I distinctly remember an upside-down rusty wheelbarrow that, over the course of 10 years, sort of became enmeshed in an old birchwood tree growing in the front yard. He's not a bad person. Just grew up on the rough side of life. backcountry-ish style, but in the suburbs of Ellesmere, Delaware. I had to do it. I pressed the OK button to see what his message said. Change your last name. An alarming text for so early in the morning to my sister. Ashes, my cat, who was curled up by my feet before I read the message, scrambled when I flinched afterwards. I closed the phone and stared at my sister a little while as she slept soundly, wondering what in the world the text meant and how much she might have known about what was going on. She had no clue I'd snuck onto her phone. Sound asleep, practically snoring, I replaced the cell under a pillow as quietly as possible, the same way I'd retrieved it, barely making any movements, my heart racing. Cadence married Ferdinand sometime around 1984, dropped her maiden name, and took his. They divorced long before the new millennium, but Cadence, out of complacency or need to remain connected to her second child in some way, never returned to her name given at birth. She still bears his last name. This text, at this time of night, did it have something to do with this game, this attack? It implied to me that Ferdinand wanted as much distance from my sister as possible. All of a sudden, after 15 or more years of not demanding she change her last name that I know of, and now he wants her to change it? This text implied to me that this attack was possibly about my family, and that he wanted my sister as far away from his family as possible. What did he know? I started panicking all over again. I've never attempted to reach him. The information overload would bypass that seeming common sense action, to call him up and ask should he have the nerve to explain his text, the one I wasn't technically supposed to see. My anxiety skyrocketed to a new high. What came flooding forward next was the entire history of my sister's engagement with the unsavory side of life. The depths of trouble she'd encountered. I haven't even accessed the tip of the iceberg. I just know it was bad. Really bad. Bad as in I once answered a call to my sister from a woman at a hotel on a major truck route. The lady, with a smoker's voice and a sinister sound, asked where Cadence was. That she was expected at the Super 8 out on that dingy highway with never-ending exhaust polluting the air. I remember telling the lady I didn't know where my sister was, while giving her a secret stank eye from my end of the line. This was back when we all shared an apartment years earlier. This woman had no business calling a dwelling in which I lived, sounding like a death hound, to find out where my sister was. And I never gave my sister that message. Why would I? No way. Why help facilitating something that disgusted me and hurt my own sister? Why help that? I don't mean the average lady for hire kind of thing, not at all. This was way different. A special breed of scary, very low-life activity kind of folk. Like, you need to take a shower after just being on the phone with that one kind of thing. How my sister wound up in these situations goes way back to a divorce, to dynamics with a stepfamily, and to us being vulnerable and extremely damaged. But back to the text. Maybe it was survival, but I reckoned in the seconds that followed the possibility of the text from Ferdinand being about something entirely different. This was a way of fending off an unhealthy cycle of suspicion that would, as I mentioned before, most certainly consume me, spiral me out of control into depths of paranoia too intense for me. The universe was out of control enough as it was. His text was one I needed to let go of. Despite Cadence's dark journey, it was also not lost on me, not one bit, that she made efforts for me. She could have resisted supporting me. She could have stayed at home in that shaggy, blood red robe, but she took the drive, kept me company during the worst moments of my life, and was nothing but encouraging and supportive since the second she entered the car to drive up to Philadelphia with me, until the time we drove back to her place. Her support would not fizzle for a long time, in fact. She proved to be the one who got me through the worst of these events of 2011 and into the following year. She is my hero in the beginning of this thing, by far the one who kept me going. If we ate that morning, I don't know what it was. Some details are completely lost, locked away in a safe place. Maybe they are waiting for the right time to emerge, with all of the pieces coming together to reveal the truth at the exact moment when justice needs to be served upon those without a conscience, without a heart, without a soul, or mind, or concern at all for humanity. Those who attacked me. I know they are attacking others too. I just know Cadence and I, began the day with a walk north on 19th to pass through Rittenhouse Square on our way to Bates's place for Murda's morning jaunt. Murda was on my schedule 3 times a day. This is a dog that I had walked for over a year. Walked Murda morning, afternoon, and bedtime. Along the way, the same foreboding energy, the kind I felt while talking to Cadence on the phone about the Pentagon guy before the big bang of day 1 began to swirl and dance and play. The Pentagon guy being some guy named John Wheeler, I think. He was found dead in a landfill in Delaware. Cherry landfill. Like an invisible force field full of mischief and misconduct, it was afoot and was having a grand time at my expense, whatever this energy was. As we moved toward the southern part of Rittenhouse Square and rounded the southwestern edge to cross over the street at a traffic light near the Philadelphia City Institute Free Library, I stalled our stride, asking Cadence if she noticed anything about the strange man walking directly to the left of us and slightly behind. A man with a long, dark winter coat of the quote-unquote men in black variety. He had very, very short hair, so short he was practically balding. A spook. That's what he looked like. Not that I know what spooks look like or that they all look the same as depicted in Hollywood films. I'm sure that is not the case because the everyday citizen would be detecting them regularly. A spook meaning a spy. I'm simply basing my idea on preconceived notions on that which has traditionally been depicted on television about secret government agents. But with my recent onset of acute hypervigilance and with this mysterious energy dancing to and fro, it felt as though I could detect anyone who might have been a spook or anything of the like. The way he clung to us, sort of like he was tailing us, until I pulled back enough for him to pass, was blatantly suspect. Do you see it? I asked. Though Cadence may not have picked up on the energy force, she agreed that yes, there was something disturbing, maybe sinister even, in regards to the slightly balding man. You know what, she finally conceded, it feels creepy everywhere. She looked from left to right and then up into the air. It's like there's something odd going on all around us, or all over the city, or something. She was picking up on the energy, even if ever so slightly. Off in the distance, I could hear the train again with its loud, long, moaning horn screaming past the pedestrian crosswalk by Locust Park. It sounded so loud. I'd never noticed it before, but now I heard it twice within about 24 hours. I wondered if the newly fallen snow, so much of it, was plowed and dumped into trains to be carted off somewhere else. With that, we continued walking along the west side of Rittenhouse Square, but across the street from the actual park, so that we passed the Rittenhouse residences and hotel where I sought refuge just 24 hours before. Then we made our way to 20th Street. We hung a right on 20th to walk north towards Market. If I recall correctly, we were headed to the FedEx Copy Center, which back then was called FedEx Kinko's. I wanted to get there first, before walking Murda, in order to reserve a zip car for later that afternoon so Cadence could return home. That's where a copy of the zip car reservation could be printed. Along the way, we passed a man on a stoop who was smoking a cigarette near the Nuts to You store, a family-run store providing the highest quality and freshest gourmet nuts, mixed nuts, snacks, and the like. I gave this man such a solemn look, his cigarette drooped down onto his bottom lip as he gasped. I'm almost certain he started towards us, maybe to chase after us to see if everything was okay. He was either in front of that store or in front of one of the 3 stores just south of the nut store. Upon further reflection, it was Sun's Cleaners, and tailoring. That's where the man was standing, an Asian man, I'm pretty sure. I gave him a look as if I were being dragged into a secret underground sex trafficking ring. That's how deeply doomed I felt. Honestly, I began to wonder if such a thing were true, that someone could be pulled into a mysterious vortex and sucked into a sex trafficking ring at the hands of the highly skilled, who whip up storms of extreme chaos and confusion around an unsuspecting victim who never saw it coming. My eyes felt as though they'd turned to dark black holes, stunned into fear with no sign of life or hope. I wanted the man to know I was in danger. So badly I wanted him to know, and I mean so badly, I wanted him to hear this message that my body language was attempting to transmit. He picked up on it. I know he did. And he wasn't sure what to do. With that, I will save a reading for later. Duplicity and Duress, Snap Factories in the Making. My apologies for, some editing errors or, you know, anything that doesn't sound as clear. I wrote a very long book, edited it 6 times myself, and it's a lot of work for one person to do, one set of eyes. Thank you so much.